I remember that people don't like the Voyage of the Dawn Treader because it's pretty far from its source material.
It's more like they change a lot of the detail. I think this is with all the books or all the movies. They change a lot of the details, like, and they kind of expand on some aspects, specifically the fighting parts. Like they add a lot more action because it's like a movie, and you got to have that, especially like the battle scenes. Which I will say, I do love the battle scenes in the first two movies. They're one of my favorites in any like fantasy movies. But none of those are included in the books. Like especially in like the first book, like. You don't even watch the battle. It's just they basically say, "Oh, yes, this is what happened," and then this happened. That's pretty much all you get. So, and that's again, I think that's fine where you're adding stuff because when Lewis is writing this, he's writing this for kids, and they're entertaining in a different way, and they're not all focused on like. And then he brought the sword down and cut down the evil person. Like they're fun, and adventurous, but he doesn't include everything that is added in the movies because they need to expand the time frame and they want more action and adventure and different parts that are included, which I think for the most part there's parts that you can, if you want to be a Narnian purist, like you can have I think there are things that you can maybe criticize some of the movies for, but for the most part they do a good job of telling the story, getting most of the facts right. And I think what's really good about the movies is that they get the heart of the story correct. In the sense that, like, Lewis is a very well-known Christian apologist. Most people know him for the books, but a lot of people also know him for the other books that he wrote, this nonfiction books, which is all about like, apologetics and thinking about like theology and various doctrines. I've been reading like through Miracles recently that he wrote, and he's a very maybe not eloquent is actually the best word. I mean, he's very like he's just a very smart apologist for, and he's a very well-known Christian, especially because he was friends with Lewis. And you can just see that when you're reading the books, you can just like feel how that's all like how what he understands and what he believes is being inputted into his work. And like everyone like is going to say like, like for example, Aslan is supposed to be Jesus, and there's different characters who are very clearly allegories for different things. And again, that's like Lewis wasn't trying to be subtle, and that wasn't the point. And what I really appreciate when I'm watching the movies is that generally speaking, they're able to get to the heart. Like especially in the Voyage of the Dawn Treader, when they almost one for one have that one phrase where Aslan says, in your place, no, sorry, in your land, country, whatever,
world.
Where you're from, in your world where you're from, I have a different name. Like that's like almost copied right from the book, and so they're able to like connect those and make those connections. So I think I just appreciate the fact that they're very good, generally speaking, at kind of getting at the heart of the book. So where they're a bit more fun. There's like some like dark moments, I suppose, where there's like maybe not like dark in the sense that we might think of them, but like there's like some things are kind of going bad, but they very much kind of capture, I think, the essence of a lot of the books, although they're not quite as like kids oriented necessarily, but they have those aspects to them that make them engaging, especially for an adult audience.
I've heard it said that Lewis is not that subtle and Tolkien was very subtle, and that we talked about that in the Lord of the Rings episodes. Just his hero character that is kind of the savior character is kind of spread out amongst different characters, whereas Lewis is just like, he's a straight up allegory, as direct as you can get. And I think that makes it more palatable, I guess. It's interesting, as we've brought up the Netflix show and what that may entail, how they're going to change the story at its core, because I don't think that you can do that with something as like Chronicles of Narnia to get it wrong and misrepresent the gospel that the at least the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe portray in the saving of Edmund through the sacrifice of Aslan. It's just embedded. It's so interwoven to the story that there's no way to avoid it. And if you change that, if Gerwig changes that, it's going to turn into, Narnia purist Christians, and probably everyone's going to be mad. Unless they're Greta Gerwig fans, and they're going to be like, oh my gosh, she's so daring.
She has a certain style. You just need to understand it.
Yeah. And so but then you lose like the actual meaning. And I'm saying that because I've talked with Isaac about how Star Wars is being treated. And I feel like the people who enjoy or started their Star Wars journey when either the original trilogy or the prequels were coming out, or Clone Wars, or even anytime before Disney bought Lucasfilm, are the people who are the real fans. Anyone who started enjoying Star Wars after that, with the sequel trilogy, with the TV shows, just has a different standard and will let anything go. And everyone else, like us, who enjoys the first 6 as really the true canon, just are the ones who are going to be more unaccepting, more detailed about how they take care or not take care of this franchise.
Yeah, and that's the main reason I'm really hesitant about any adaptation of Narnia, or modern adaptation of Narnia, because we've seen, I'd say, good adaptations, because Lewis is so quite outspoken in what he's trying to tell you. Like, it's like, wow, Aslan dies. Oh, and he's resurrected. Wow, what could be? What's going on here? And all of them have it. Like, one of my favorite ones is like the last one, where it's like, wow, the world's ending. What could? And then like stuff happens, and like what could this be matching up to? It's almost like he's a Christian or something. So if you're going to be producing that, you have to have that in mind. The same thing for Lord of the Rings. And I think either you're going to, because you're coming at it from a different perspective, if you're like just like secular, or you're not even trying to understand Lewis' deep Christianity and his profound beliefs that changed his life and impacted him throughout all of his work, then like you're not going to get the heart of the Narnia adaptation you're trying to make, and it's just going to feel, I think, hollow. And even if like even if like, for example, in this adaptation that is coming up, like they get like the facts right, so to speak, for the most part, but you're not getting the heart of what's going on. It's just going to be a secular creation, or it's just going to be a secular copy, rather, of something that's just going to feel hollow. It's not going to have the soul of the work of what Lewis was trying to impart into it. And that's, I think, is going to be the main issue, probably, I think, what is going to happen, because they're not going to catch that essence. Which, I mean, you could debate how well the movies do that, but I think, at least for the first one, I think they do a really good job at capturing most of that and the kind of the point of it.